Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Tulsi Gabbard, an American politician, commentator, and a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves. She served as the U.S. representative for Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District across 4 terms from 2013 until 2021. She was the first female combat veteran to run for president, as well as the first Hindu member of Congress and the first Samoan American voting member. Both during and after her terms in office, Gabbard has been a formidable voice in the political space, leaning right of center, despite her Democrat origins, with continued appearances on Fox News, while retaining more progressive views on topics such as drug legalization. She is the host of her own program, The Tulsi Gabbard Show, where she continues to speak on relevant issues with the following axiom firmly in mind: country before party. Thank you very much for agreeing to talk to me today. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I thought maybe we'd start by talking about your experience, your history with the Democrats. If you could just walk us through that. I mean, you had a stellar rise within the confines of the party, and then a certain amount of friction. And maybe you could just walk us through that. You were elected very, very young.
Yes.
And so maybe we could start with that. And could you just tell the story of being involved with the Democrats?
Well, I growing up here in Hawaii, it's a beautiful place, and from a young age, had a pretty deep appreciation for the importance of protecting this place, protecting our oceans and the preservation of clean water. We get our water here from water aquifers, and as the most remote island chain in the world, protecting those resources are essential for life. And so my motivation and drive to run for the State House of Representatives here in Hawaii when I was 21 years old in 2002 really came from that motivation to want to be in a position where I could actually do that. They wanted to build a big landfill over one of our big water aquifers here, which, even for me as a teenager seemed like such an absurd idea and risk, because once that water is contaminated, then it's done. And so I was part of, I went out and got petitions and signatures and joined others to be able to try to stop that, because it was being, the wheels were being greased by a corrupt politician, essentially, who was trying to help his buddy who ran the landfill business. And it was a great experience for me as a young person to be a part of stopping that from happening. And that's what drove me to run for office when I was 21 years old. It was not out of any kind of design like, I'm going to have this big political career and this will be the first stepping stone to get to somewhere else. It was really driven by a desire to be of service and make that positive impact. I chose to be a Democrat. My family it wasn't one of those like legacy party affiliation things that you just did. I really was thoughtful at that time about which box I wanted to check in filing those papers to run for office. And, for us here in Hawaii, the origins of the Democratic Party really came from a party that fought for people, kind of a more populist perspective. We had plantation workers who were being absolutely abused and taken advantage of by the huge landowners here in the state that was essentially being run by elite, wealthy Republicans at the time. And it was a Democratic Party that fought for those who didn't have a voice. It was a Democratic Party that celebrated civil liberties, that celebrated freedom and individual thought, this big tent party that really was rooted in kind of those traditional liberal JFK-esque ideals. And it was a party that had many voices that spoke out for peace. And so all of these different things really drew me to the Democratic Party as a party that would fight for the voices of the people.
Mm-hmm. In Canada, we have a socialist tradition, the New Democratic Party, and I worked for them when I was a kid. The man I worked for was the father of Alberta's last premier, second last premier, and a lot of the people that were involved in the NDP were labor leaders, And it was well known in Canada that the Conservatives were the party of the establishment and the Liberals were, well, they played both sides against the middle very effectively. And the Socialists, the NDP, British Socialists, rather than the communist type, they're really the voice of the working class. They're the voice of the unions. And the working class needs a voice, obviously. And I think, well, the NDP did provide that to some degree in Canada, and the Democrats historically did provide that. That seemed to go pretty damn sideways with Clinton.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it looked to me from an outsider's point of view, and I was rather appalled by this, that the Democrats had decided to sacrifice their traditional base, the working class, the committed working class, for something approximating the politics of division and this, whatever this new narrative is of
Exactly.
oppression and victimization. And I don't think that worked out very well either, as far as I could tell, because my sense of the Clinton-Trump debacle was that it wasn't so much that Trump won, although he certainly did. It was definitely the case that Clinton lost. And I
Yes.
think she did that by sacrificing the interests of the working class. Trump just vacuumed that up in no time flat, masterfully, I thought. He seemed to have that ability to communicate with working class people, interestingly enough, and they trusted him. At least they trusted him in comparison to Clinton.
Yes.
So you were interested in the Democrats because of that working class voice tradition. And you worked with the Democrats for a long time. How long you ran when you were 21? That was in when, 2000?
That was in 2002.
2002. Right. So, and when did you formally sever ties with the Democrats?
In October of last year, 2022.
Right. So it was basically 20 years.
Yeah. I did not spend all of that time in politics. I left the State House when I volunteered to deploy with our Hawaii Army National Guard unit because the events of 9/11, like so many Americans, changed my life, changed my perspective, and I had enlisted in the military, motivated by what happened there, to go after the Islamist terrorists who attacked us on that day. And so I was campaigning for re-election here in Hawaii in 2004, which looked to be a pretty easy re-election here, and to continue the work I was doing. Our unit, or the National Guard unit, was activated for a deployment to Iraq. I was told by my commander, congratulations, you don't have to go. Your name is, we've already got someone filling this job in the medical unit where I was serving. So you can stay home and you can continue doing what you're doing. But I knew that there was no way, just no way that I could stay back and work in some plush office in the state capitol and watch my brothers and sisters